Another thing that I want to share with people is the fact that CPA journey, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. One has to run it with patience. You run it with consistency. You run it with determination. Believing that, because if you look at the stress, it's overwhelming. That's just the truth. It is overwhelming. But when you look at the stress of now, but instead of concentrating on the stress of now, concentrate on what you have to gain after you get your certificate.
Welcome to another episode of the CPA Exam Experience Podcast from SuperfastCPA. I'm Logan, and in today's video, you're going to hear me talking with Nike. Now, Nike has a really cool story. She is actually from Nigeria, and she had been a chartered accountant for, I think, 13 years in Nigeria. So she had a lot of experience in doing accounting. She wasn't somebody who was coming at this, just fresh out of her master's or something like that. She had been doing accounting for a long time. And then eventually they moved to the United States, they moved to Texas, and she saw that when she got here, the equivalent or something similar to her being a chartered accountant in Nigeria, here in the United States would be becoming a CPA. So that was her goal, was to become a CPA so that she would have more opportunities here in the United States. And she has a really cool story. She started out with one review course and decided that it wasn't for her, and it made a big difference when she switched to a new review course, and of course made a big difference when she found SuperfastCPA. She's a big proponent of that. She talks about a lot of the great things that happened when she switched to SuperfastCPA, so you're going to want to listen to all of her tips and all of her advice in this video. Again, she's someone who had a lot of experience. She's a chartered accountant in Nigeria, but she still needed help. She had to change the way that she studied to become a CPA here in the United States. And that's what this interview is about, is talking about the strategies, talking about the different ways that you can pass the CPA exam, because it's not like anything else that you do. It's not like school. It's not like the chartered accountant exam. It's its own thing. So you have to know how to pass the CPA exam specifically. And you'll hear Nike talk about that. Now, before we dive into the interview with Nike, I just want to give one more reminder about our Superfast CPA training webinar on SuperfastCPA.com. Again, that is 1 hour that will save you months and months of studying, because we will teach you the key ingredients to passing the CPA exam so you don't waste months or even years of your time failing exams. So make sure you go check that webinar out. And with all that said, let's dive straight into the interview with Nike. Good morning, Nike. I'm so glad to be talking with you today. How are you doing this morning?
I'm fine, thank you, Logan. Good morning. It's good to meet you.
It's good to meet you too. Is it? I think you were telling me at some point that you're in Houston. Is that right, or Dallas?
I'm in Dallas, Texas.
Dallas. Is it? What's the weather like right there, right these days?
It's good. It's good.
It's good. It's not. It doesn't get too cold there.
No, not at all.
All right.
Yes.
Well, I'm excited to be talking to you today. I remember seeing you posting in the forum sometimes and getting some emails from you, so it'll be cool to hear your story. So what I always like to do is just kind of start from the beginning. What's your experience with accounting, and where were you at in your career when you decided you wanted to do the CPA?
Okay, thank you so much, Logan. Like I said, it's so good to meet you after several emails. I saw a lot of your responses on the, I think candidates, is it candidate forum? Yes. Which is always a good place to meet you and that. And I'm so glad to be here to share my experience with everyone that is still on the journey. Basically, my CPA experience or the CPA journey took about 17 months. And that runs from 2022 August to January 2024. And before then, I have always been a chartered accountant from Africa. And once we relocated there, I said, let me look at what is obtainable here. And when I did my research, I found out that one of the best and the surest way to get to that platform where I was in Nigeria is also through the CPA. So I started the journey in 2022. Right. Yes.
Okay. So you'd been a chartered accountant for years in Nigeria.
Yes.
And so when you moved to the US, you decided, it looks like CPA is kind of like a similar thing, similar license to what I've been in Nigeria.
Correct.
So you wanted to get that.
Yes.
So what is your experience like? What have you done in accounting? I'm just curious, like, did you ever do like taxes in Nigeria, or was it more like financial statements? What was your background in accounting?
Basically in Nigeria, we did taxes, but it has to be taxes in Nigeria. And we did
Yep.
financial statement. The financial statement is actually general, but in Nigeria, I wasn't into taxes. I wasn't into financial statements. I was actually a credit control manager. I was
Okay.
managing credit control. I was a full credit control manager. So that was what I
Okay.
did for about 30 years before moving here.
Wow.
Yes.
That's awesome. So when you decided you wanted to go for the CPA, what did you start with? Did you start with getting a review course like Becker or something like that?
Yes, this is a very good question because this is actually what makes a whole lot of differences. When I started with fast forward. I didn't even start with Becker. I later got to know about Becker. I started with fast forward, and I took my first exam, which was reg, and I took another one, because I scheduled the two exams, both reg and audit, at the same time. That was another mistake that I actually made because I actually scheduled the exam before I went in because I was overconfident. I was like, of course, I have whatever I think it will take. But I scheduled the two exams just 1 month apart. So I took reg first with fast forward. And of course, I didn't pass it. And because I already scheduled audit, so I studied for audit. I took audit too. I didn't pass it. It was at that point I had to sit down and said, okay, definitely something is wrong. So I sat down and I was scrolling through my phone before I saw Superfast and Becker.
Okay. So you had fast, and I've never really heard of fast forward. So you were using fast forward for reg and for audit.
Yes.
Scheduled both of them.
Yes.
Without even never having taken an exam.
Exactly. Yes. That was a big error.
and then failed both of them. And so at that point, you're looking around, and did you what did you find? Did you start using Becker and SuperfastCPA CPA around the same time, or
Yes.
okay,
Same time. I started with
Okay.
both the same time.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And so, what was interesting to you about SuperfastCPA CPA when you discovered it?
Awesome. Superfast CPA, to me, when I went through it, the first thing I did was to listen to the podcast, and I saw Nat talking about the 1 hour webinar or something. So
Yeah.
I immediately bought one of the course, which was reg. That was the first one I did.
Right.
I bought only reg, and I went through the 1 hour webinar, and I followed the process. And once I followed the process, I discovered that the process I used for reg and audit before were actually traditional. All we had to do was I read through the whole process. I listened to the videos. I listened to everything. I walked through all the MCQs, and I went for the exam. Of course, I got the results. But when I listened to the webinar, I discovered that no, the process has to be different, the unconventional way. And I followed through with my second attempt, which was reg, and I passed. Yes.
Okay. So your first experience with SuperfastCPA CPA was the podcast. Is that right? Is that what you were saying?
Podcast? No.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So was it? It was the webinar then. So you found the webinar, watched that, and then you got like reg and went from there.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And you passed reg, which is awesome. And what was the difference this time? Like, you had taken reg and audit before, doing kind of the normal way, but what did you feel was different? Why do you feel that it was different this time around?
Okay. Like I said earlier, when I watched the webinar, the 1 hour webinar for with Nat. The first thing was I took 3 processes out of the webinar. The first one was me starting with the questions. That I had to start with the questions, which was the other way around. The other way around was I had to go through the materials and then go to the questions. But this time, I was meant to understand that, no, you start with the questions. That gives me where to concentrate on. And the second one was the daily review. And the last one, which was very key to me, was the mini quiz. Those were the those were the 3 takeaway from the webinar. And those processes, I followed it through. I made sure I did everything that I had to do. before I went for reg, and I passed it.
That's awesome. And do you remember what you scored with reg when you passed it?
Yes, 84.
84.
Yes.
That's a great score. So you go in, you pass reg, and after that, what did you decide to get the rest of SuperFast CPA?
Oh yes, immediately immediately I got the result for. No, I didn't even wait to get the results. Immediately I finished reg, and of course I had to start preparing for audit. I just went. I bought the whole package. I bought everything,
Okay.
including Pro Member. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So you didn't even wait for your score. You were
No.
just like, I liked the way this went.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it for all of my exams.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And then so you had 3 big takeaways from the webinar. And then do you remember if there was anything else that you liked from the pro course when you watched the pro course through?
Oh yeah. Another thing was on how to attempt simulations. That was also very good. That you go through it, you submit it, you use it to learn. Of course, I did that, but not to the latter. I did it, but the 3 things I really took away that I made sure I did from the webinar were just those 3. Other things, of course, I used it, but not exactly the way he said it. I just tried to adapt it to my own style.
Right. Right. So you got, and what did your day typically look like once you started studying with SuperFast CPA? Were you studying in the morning? Were you studying in the evening? And how much were you studying?
Okay. One of the things that Nat mentioned in the webinar was to study in the morning, but because I was already doing it, so it wasn't new to me. So first thing I do, of course, I'm used to it that if you are preparing for an exam and you need to pass it, you need to study in the morning. So I was already used to that. So one thing I do, I make sure I wake up early in the morning, minimum of 2 hours, at times 3 hours. I wake up in the morning, and when I wake up in the morning, another very key thing is this. Before I go to bed at night, I make sure I schedule what I had to do in the morning.
Okay.
That most times motivates me to get off the bed and start. So once I get off the bed, the next thing I do is to go off to my system, start new materials, and I start with questions. So I start new materials, I start with questions that keep me awake, because to a very good extent you are challenged. It's very active. So you are challenged, you are awake, because something is triggering you. You are not sleeping off, you are not dozing off, you are not just zoning off.
Not just
Because
watching a video.
exactly, you are very active. And that I do every morning. And in the afternoon or throughout the day, I make sure I'm doing one thing or the other. Is either I'm on mini quiz, is either I'm listening to audios. I do one thing or the other. I keep myself active all throughout the day. And in the evening also, I also try to go through one or 2 things, or to review whatever I've done during the day.
Okay. So you would, I like that idea, by the way. So in the evenings, before you would go to bed, you would plan what you were going to study the next day.
Yes.
So what did that look like? Did you just write down, I'm going to do this module, or what did that look like?
Okay. Good question. One thing is, once I start the course, I look at how many topics I have. I break it down into weekly. I break it down into daily. I break it down into hourly. So I take it one after the other, because my intention is to finish minimum of. I still want to have 2 weeks before the exam. After I've covered all the materials. So I plan the courses based on that schedule, and I work with it. So I take it one after the other.
So when you were breaking it up daily and even hourly, was that like, in this hour, I want to get done with a certain amount of questions, or was it a certain module, or what did that look like?
Module. I go with modules.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So in this hour, I want to get F1, M2 done, or something like that.
Yes. So I will do everything within that module. Yes. Yes.
Okay. And so when you were doing, so you do that in the evening, you would plan out what you were going to do, and then in the morning you would, do those 2 or 3 hours.
Yes.
And then throughout the day, what did using your mini sessions look like? Were you doing audio notes and mini quizzes and stuff constantly throughout the day, you were saying?
Yes. I do it throughout the day. Even 2 minutes, 5 minutes, I make sure I'm on my phone using the mini quiz or listening to the audio. Yes.
And just curious, because I know that this is something that some people struggle with. Did you have to kind of change anything about your phone habits to make sure that you were studying instead of maybe
Yes, I did.
looking at social media or something like that?
Exactly. I always remember that. Because, Nats always emphasize it, that the time you spend on social media converts it to CPA. So just so that you get CPA out of the way. So I always remember him mention that. So instead of me going to social media, I converted it to
Okay.
CPA studies, yes.
And did you just like move your social media to a different part of your phone, or did you delete it off your phone? How did
No,
you do
I
that?
just ignored it.
You just ignored it.
Yeah, I
Hey,
just
that's
ignored it.
that's some pretty
I
good
don't go there.
willpower.
Yes, ignored
That's
it.
great.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. And I mean, I wish that it was that easy for everybody. Just like,
Oh.
I'll just leave it for later. uh, so that's awesome. I'm glad that you took that to heart. So, and did you ever use I know you used the audios and the mini quizzes. Did you also read the review notes?
Not as
Not as much.
such, yes. I didn't read it
Okay.
as much, yes.
Were those a little bit,
Yes.
so those didn't click with you as much. And, that kind of happens a lot of the time. We want everybody to use everything to some extent, but definitely people typically gravitate towards, I really like the mini quizzes,
Yeah.
or I really like the audios. So,
Yes.
and did you find the mini quizzes to be useful?
Oh my God. I tell you, very useful. As a matter of fact, it will get to a point once I see any question that is giving me maybe I missed it or I just got it in a error. I'm not so sure about it. The next thing I do is to screenshot the answer. I will
Okay.
because I have another phone. I will screenshot the answer and send it to my other phone. So I will
Okay.
go there and review it very well because most times you may not be able to go back to it again. Once you answer it and that 5 question is off, it will bring out another one. So somehow I may not be able to go back to it. But because I want to really study it to understand the rationale behind the answer. So the next thing I do, I will screenshot it, send it to my other phone, and review it very well there. So I
Okay.
really made good use of the mini quiz.
Right. So you are you saying that you have 2 phones?
Yes, I have 2 phones.
Okay. So you would send it to
To the
and
other
what's
phone.
that for? Is it like a work phone and a home phone, or like a
Like
personal phone,
home
or?
phone is like home phone.
Okay, I see.
Yes.
Okay. So you would screenshot the mini quiz that if you were struggling with something, or if,
Exactly.
because you can't see it again once you're done with the quiz.
Yes.
So, and we have it built like that so that you're just seeing everything random and you can go through it quick. But I like that idea of screenshotting something so that you can kind of digest it more later.
Yes.
So, you changed a lot of your study habits and everything, and you're studying constantly, and then you pass reg. And so how did audit go after that?
Oh my God. Okay, this is what makes the difference. Audit was very tough for me. And I think basically because personally I don't like audit. And because I don't like audits, I think it's had its tolls on me. I actually took audit like 4 times. But what I did was that I never stopped. Once I finished it, fine, I will go. At a point, I went too far, but I had to come back immediately. I didn't pass it until I passed it. So I continued to do it over and over and over again until I passed it. And one thing that happened while I was doing this audit like 4 times was each time I want to start it all over again, it's always very difficult, very discouraging, and very, very discouraging. But one thing that my inner man keeps telling me is this: Nike, you are not wasting time. The past experience is cumulative. You are going to add this to it. So at the end of the day, you are going to have it in total. So that was what I used to encourage myself, that the
Right.
experience or whatever I have gained, the knowledge and everything is cumulative. And that really encouraged me until I passed it.
Yeah. So you had to take audit 4 times,
Yes.
and you were saying that each time you would take it and then you'd go to FAR until you found out your score, and then you would go back to audit. And just to make sure I'm understanding you there, are you saying that you would start fresh every time with audit?
Yes, I
Or
start all
okay.
over. I start all
Okay.
over because actually, when you talk, Nat talked about is it retake?
A
Is that
restudy,
yeah,
yeah.
it's
Uh-huh.
restudy, and he gave us the process to do it. I tried as much as possible to follow his process, but I still adapt my own style. And my
Okay.
style is I go over all the materials again because
Okay.
my whole thinking is if I've gotten the materials, then I should have passed. So I try to go over all the materials again to make sure that whatever
You're not
lapses I
missing
have is,
anything.
yes, I'm not missing anything.
Okay. So, and would you do that kind of like, did you take the retake process and adapt it, or did you just kind of start from the beginning and kind of do your same thing that you did before, where you're like, I'm going to do this module today, I'm going to do this module
Yes,
today?
I did that.
Okay, okay,
Yes, yes,
okay. So you finally conquered audit after
yes,
4 attempts, and how
yes.
did that feel?
Oh, it was good. It was a big
It
relief
felt
for me.
good.
Yes, I felt so good. I felt so good at least. But at that point, I had FAR. And you know, the whole FAR was so big because it was so big and so intimidating. But fortunately, it was the only one I passed once. It
Yeah,
was the only one I passed
well,
once.
did you pass? Yeah, so you passed FAR first try. So
Yes,
and you're right. When you were taking it in 2023, right
yeah,
before they did the
yes,
big
the big
change.
change, yes.
So yeah, I took FAR in 20, like at the end of 2022. So it was the same, like I think it was 10 modules in
Yes,
Becker,
oh my
and
God.
now it's only 6. But yeah,
Wow,
it was very big.
it's lighter now. It was very
Yeah,
big then, very
yeah.
overwhelming. I never knew I would pass it, honestly. When I passed it, I was so overjoyous. I was so happy. I was so
Oh yeah,
happy.
I bet.
I was surprised. But thank God I
And,
passed it.
yeah. And did you find, so when you were going through FAR, were you, I mean, you weren't expecting to pass. Did you feel like you had a good chance, or were you just really nervous about it? How did you feel with FAR?
I think I was just in the middle because when I finished, I felt really good.
Okay.
But before I
Okay.
went for it, I was not that confident. But when I finished the exam, I felt good because the questions that I had were questions that were topics I was good at. So to a good extent, I felt a little bit good, but you know, this is CPA. You
Yeah.
can't tell. So, but before I went in, I was not that confident. But after the exam, I felt a little bit good, but I was like, just
Maybe.
maybe not. And
Yeah.
thank God it worked.
And how just curious, is that how you felt with the audit exams too, or were you less or more confident with those ones?
You know what? At a point, I actually thought I was going to pass audit, but I failed it at that point.
Okay. Okay. So it was still hard to tell, like
Yes,
the whole time.
to me, it's hard to tell. Yes, it's hard to tell.
Yeah. And actually, another question that I just barely thought of: do you feel like your experience as a chartered accountant in Nigeria, did any of that transfer or help to with taking FAR specifically, since probably there's some overlap there?
Yes, oh yes, oh yes.
Yeah.
There are so many of the topics that were not too new. There were
Okay.
things I've done before. So, of course,
Okay.
yes,
I'm sure that must have helped to,
yes.
financial statements,
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly,
yeah, those kinds
exactly,
of things.
exactly.
Okay.
Yes, yes,
Um, and so it was 2023 that you took FAR. So
yes,
you had passed 3 by that point,
yes.
and it was still 2023. So you would have taken BEC next. Is that right?
Yes, I took BEC, last chance BEC, but I didn't pass it. So I had to take
Okay.
TCP, yes.
Yeah. Uh, and with BEC, did you find that? I mean, they don't have it anymore, so it doesn't matter too much. But did you find it difficult, or like, what did you think about BEC?
I actually love BEC because there are some parts of it that were management accounting. Like, so I love some part of it, but I don't know why I didn't pass it. So,
Maybe it
but I
was.
love it.
I mean, I know that for me, the written portion was probably the reason that
Oh,
I got a 75.
yes. That was what actually worked against me. That was
Probably,
what,
yeah.
yes. I actually forgot that part. Thank you for reminding me. Yes, that was what worked. Because even before, and again, Becca at that point didn't have good parts. They didn't have a good grip on that particular part. So that actually worked against me, yes. All other
Yeah. So
parts were good for me, but the written part,
yeah, it made it
yes,
difficult.
yes, yes.
I'm pretty sure that for me the written portion was why I got a 75 instead of
Ooh.
maybe scoring a little bit higher
Oh
for
yeah.
BEC.
Yes,
I
yes,
barely passed BEC.
yes.
So you failed BEC, and so you were gonna take TCP next. And how did TCP go?
Oh, TCP went really good. If you remember, TCP, you know, it has a lot of far talking about the partnership and all those stuff.
Mm,
Yes. And because I already passed far, so it was added advantage to me on TCP. So when I took TCP, I was very comfortable. I was very confident when I took TCP, and it really worked out for me. Yes.
And you had already also passed reg, so passing
Yes.
FAR, passing reg really helped with
Yes. It
TCP.
helps with TCP.
With TCP, what was your thought process for taking TCP? Like, why didn't you take bar or ISC?
Oh, wow. At a point, immediately I failed PEC, I was very confused. So I had to sit down. If you remember in Becker, they will give you a kind of test. They will give you opportunity to review the 3 discipline courses. So I went through it. I reviewed it. At a point, I wanted to take bar. I now discovered that part of the BEC that I just failed had just in bar. So I said, this will not work for me. This will not work. So I went through TCP. I said, I think I'm more comfortable with TCP. So I went for TCP. So that was why I took TCP.
That makes sense. That makes sense. So I don't think I ever have seen that. So when you looked at in Becker, have you like take a test, or was it more just reading what was
I don't
in
know
the
if they
different
still have
options?
it now. Maybe it happened immediately after the evolution. They will give you access to the 3. So it will give you the opportunity to be able to review everything. Then you choose the one you are comfortable with. But once you choose one, the other 2 will go off.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, so once you pick one, you can't access the other ones.
The other one, yes.
Okay. And I think I do remember that, but it's been a little while since I looked at that.
Yes.
So, and honestly, I think you made the right choice. Bar I think it is the hardest exam right now. I think it's even more difficult than FAR.
Honestly, to me, I wonder most times why people take bar. It's extreme.
Yeah, it's like bar. It's like FAR again, like FAR extended.
You are very right. Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, I think you made the right choice taking TCP. And did you pass that one first try as well?
Once, 89.
So FAR and TCP, you passed first try. That's awesome.
Yes.
And just curious, so you took TCP in 2024 when the whole discipline exams had changed and everything.
Yes.
So how long did you have to wait to get your score back?
At that point, I had to wait for like 3 months. I took it in January, which was the first set of people that took it.
Okay, so you took it right away.
Right away.
Okay.
I think I used about 4 weeks to prepare for it. I took it right away and I passed it. And we got the score in April. So in April, I got the score.
In April. And what did you do when you found out that you had passed? Did you guys celebrate at all?
Oh, yeah, we did. I celebrated. I told everybody that knew that I was writing CPA. We celebrated. I celebrated with my family. I celebrated with everybody I know. Of course, it was
just telling everybody, hey, did you hear I passed the CPA?
Yes. It was a huge relief. And I was glad I was done with it.
And was your family excited too? Because they had been going through this whole thing with you.
Absolutely, because every one of them has had their share of CPA.
So they could all maybe take the exams too.
Yes. All of us celebrated it.
How many do you have? I'm assuming that you have, a family. You have kids. How many kids do you have?
Yes, I have 3.
3. Okay,
yes.
I have 3 as well. So that's a good number.
Awesome.
It's a good number. So yeah, and were they? How involved were they? Like, were they pretty understanding of you going through the process?
Oh, yes, they did. Like I said, it's as if all of us were taking CPA because everybody has to make one sacrifice or the other. And their sacrifice, their decision, and their support really played a very huge role on my success. Because if they hadn't supported, it would have been much easier. Because this is something that we all just moved. And because we all just moved, all of us were just adapting. They needed me a lot, but at a point I had to tell them, things that has to wait till after the exam. And things that I have to attend to, I tried to attend to it. But they were very supportive. To the extent that nothing goes, you can't listen to anything around me. The only thing you listen to is CPA. And their support really played a huge role on it. Yes.
So they were willing to listen to the audio notes with you for months.
Yeah, even if they are not listening, of course, that is the only thing that can hear around me. So.
That's funny. Yes. They know that when they're around mom or when they're around, then that's it.
Yeah, exactly.
And actually, I never thought about this, but I don't know I know the rules for if you just, you take a bachelor's and a master's and things like that, like in the US, but what requirements did you have to meet to be able to take the exams here, coming from Nigeria as a
Nigeria.
chartered accountant already?
Okay.
Did you have to take any classes? I think that's what I'm trying to
Yes,
ask.
yes.
Like, okay,
You have to take some classes. They call it prerequisite. For me,
okay,
I had to take about 3 courses. I think I took taxation, I took communication, and I took ethics. Those were the 3 I
okay,
had to take. But it wasn't too tedious because all I had to do was to register with online. I took all of them
okay,
online. They were all virtual. So I took them online. I just had to register with maybe a TCC around me, and I did it within 3 months. I was done with it. And
okay,
it actually depends on what you have from Nigeria or from wherever you are coming from, because
mm-hmm.
you are going to evaluate your credentials. Once the
Okay,
credentials are evaluated in Texas, once the credentials are evaluated, they send you the additional courses that you needed, additional credits that you needed. And
okay,
once they give you
okay.
the additional credit, you just go wherever you have, wherever you want to, take it, then send it back to them. Once it gets to them, they will tell you when you are eligible to start.
Okay,
But
so
I don't
you
think
had,
it's not
yeah,
tedious. It's not tedious.
it wasn't too much. Okay,
No.
yeah, I was curious if you had to. I never asked that, but I was curious if you had to like get a degree or anything like that. So you didn't have to do that. You just took 3 college classes online,
But I
and
already
then
had my degree and master's though.
exactly,
Uh-huh.
exactly.
Yes.
You had already had your degree
Yes.
before, so you didn't have to get it over again,
No,
which is good.
no, no.
Thank goodness. um, so, and just to make sure I'm understanding you there, so they looked at your experience, your work credentials, and they were like, you have enough to only have to do
I don't
these
think they
three
look at your work
classes.
experience. No.
Oh, okay. It was
They
just your
only look at the
credentials.
credentials. Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
okay, I see. All right. And so, kind of switching gears a little bit, because I haven't asked too much about this yet. What was your strategy for when you were dealing with something tough, some kind of multiple choice question that you didn't really understand, or a sim that you didn't understand? How did you break it down and learn from it? Did you take notes? Did you make flashcards?
For any, whether MCQ or Sims, once I go through it and I discover I am not getting through, even if I went through, but I discovered that the rationale behind it was different from my own thoughts or my own idea, I take notes. And as a matter of fact, I took notes for almost everything. When I
Okay,
say notes, I mean manual notes. So for
like
each of
handwritten notes.
handwritten notes, because I retain a lot when I handwrite. So
Mm-hmm.
for everything that I do, even apart from the MCQs and the simulations, I still go through all the materials. Even after I'm done with the MCQs and the simulations, I still go through all the materials, because it's possible that there are some things in the materials that the MCQ and the simulations they cover. So I still make sure I go back to the materials and go through it module to module. So I take
Okay.
notes for everything and I do my flashcards for everything.
So when you're saying that, so you know, of course you went through the multiple choice questions and the sims, but are you saying that after you had gone through all that, you would go back and read the textbook and watch the videos? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, yes,
Okay, okay,
yes,
okay.
yes.
So you were taking notes on not just what you learned from the multiple choice questions and the sims, but also on any other things that you might have learned from the video or from the textbook. Okay,
Correct, correct.
okay.
But the MCQs and the simulation helps me to know where to concentrate on.
Right. Okay.
So
So
that's
you knew, so you weren't just okay, so you weren't just copying everything down that they were saying. You were like, based on what I learned from the multiple choice questions, this is what's actually important. Is that
yes,
what you're saying?
yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. And just curious, did you have like multiple notebooks, or was it all in one notebook?
I have multiple notebooks. As a
Multiple.
matter
Okay.
of fact, I have notebook for each of the subjects. At a point, I even
Okay.
had to give out one of my notebooks to somebody. Somebody that's currently writing the CPA. But I have notebooks, separate notebook for each.
Okay. Okay. So you would have a separate notebook for each exam. And
Yes.
was it just one, like, because audit you took 4 times? Did you do a fresh notebook each time, or?
Yes, fresh, but not all. So the
Okay.
more
Okay.
the more I go, the lesser the notes becomes. Whatever
Okay.
I've written in the past ones, I don't write it anymore.
It's just what you
Yes,
still need to write at that
what I
point.
still need to write at that point. Yes.
Okay. Okay. And you said you also made flashcards, and were those also physical flashcards?
Flashcard, physical. I wrote down everything, physical.
Okay. Okay. And when did you typically study your flashcards? Because you would make them, but when did
Yes.
you review them?
I review them like few days to the exam. Maybe
Okay.
after I'm done with
Right.
all the materials, then I review the flashcards.
Okay. So they were more of a part of your final review, like towards
Exactly.
the very end.
Yes.
And you said, if I remember right, you said that you had 2 weeks of final review. You tried to do that for
Yes.
each exam.
Yes.
So what were you doing during those final 2 weeks to kind of review and be ready for the exam?
Okay. The first thing I do is, now that I'm done with the materials, I do about three major things. The first thing I do, I go back to the handwritten notes. I review all. I review all my flashcards. Then I go over all my MCQs again and all my simulations again. So they are just like 2 weeks of re-review of everything.
Okay.
So that's what I do. And even in the process, in the 2 weeks, as I'm doing my 30 MCQ question, depends on the exam. You know, there are some exams that have 30 MCQs, and there are
Right.
some that have 25. So whichever one it is, I try to model the exam to be able to model where I am. Okay, if I take this exam now, what will be my percentage? So I try as much as possible. For those that are 30, I do 30. For the ones that are 26, I think that there was a point that they had 26. The one that are 26, I try to do 26. I just try as much as possible to model the exam. And that's what I do like every day. Even apart from that, I still do the real review to make sure that I cover everything, all the topics at a point.
Okay. So you would do what you were saying, like going through everything, and then you would also still do your reviewing, like your cumulative review
Yes.
every day as well.
Yes.
Something we haven't gotten to talk about too much yet is your sims. Like, if I'm understanding you right, are you saying you did all the sims in your review course?
Yes, I did all the sims. I tried as much as possible to do all the sims. And as I'm doing the MCQs, I'm also doing the sims. So I do the two together.
Okay. And when you were doing the sims, were they, how did you approach them? Like, how did you learn from them?
Okay, because just the same approach I give to the MCQs, I try to exhaust my knowledge. I try to make sure I try my best. And because that helps me a lot. If I've exhausted my efforts or my knowledge, by the time I go to the answer, it will help me to retain. Because at that point, I will know where I miss. So I did follow the process, the super fast process on that. Because the super fast is just submit and go and look at the answer. No, I didn't do that. I make sure I exhaust my efforts. Once I'm done, I submit, go through it, and be able to make the necessary corrections.
Learn from it there.
Yes, and learn from there.
So you would attempt to sim the best you could.
Yes.
You know, maybe sometimes you had no idea, so you probably didn't get very far. But sometimes maybe you knew a lot, so you'd get as far as you could. But either way, you would do the best you could, and then you would submit it and learn from there. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think that we've covered a lot of the different things. Like, we've covered how you study in the mornings and throughout the day with the mini sessions. We covered your sims, and I think we've covered mostly everything. Now, as we're kind of wrapping up, something I'd like to ask is there anything about your process or your experience that you want to share that we haven't gotten to talk about yet?
Yes, I've actually mentioned one, but the one that I actually want to mention to people, I have about two. The first one is because I remembered when I started the CPA journey, one thing that I was craving for was actually a community of people to share ideas with. And I tell you, when I joined SuperFast, the candidate forum really helped me a lot. It helped me a lot because you'll be sharing idea with people that are currently going through whatever you are going through. So that was a very good platform for me. And I try as much as possible. As a matter of fact, that was one part that I never made away with. I check it like every now and then. Whenever I see something on it on my phone, I open it to see what somebody is talking about. and from your support, from the NAT support, and from the experience of other candidates, you will learn a lot. So that place is, to me, was a very good platform. Another thing that I want to share with people is the fact that CPA journey, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. One has to run it with patience. You run it with consistency. You run it with determination. Believing that, because if you look at the stress, it's overwhelming. That's just the truth. It is overwhelming. But when you look at the stress of now, but instead of concentrating on the stress of now, concentrate on what you have to gain after you get your certificate. It's not only about the certificate, but the kind of confidence and boldness that you'll be able to exercise outside there will go a long way to help you. So you look at the end result, not the current thing you are going through. Believing so well that you have to run it with patience, you have to run it with consistency, and you have to run it with determination. And at the end of the day, you'll be surprised that you'll be done. So.
That's awesome. I agree. It's Nate always compares it to the 800 meter. I think it's the 800 meter sprint where it's it's not short, but it's also not like it doesn't have to be like 3 or 4 years, hopefully. But you still have to be just constant and going the whole time.
Yes.
Now, is there anything that you, like, as we're wrapping up, is there anything that you did after you passed the CPA exam that, like, it gave you confidence to do something else after you passed the CPA?
Oh, yeah. As a chartered accountant that just moved here, there are a lot of things that you may not know. So I haven't completed my CPA. I can approach the profession with confidence. Whatever you do, you'll be sure that, no, this one, it's what it's supposed to be. So it increases or improves your confidence to a very large extent. When you speak with boldness because you know you have something to back it up. Because from the wealth of knowledge you must have gained from the exam as well as the studies, then you can be rest assured that, yes, you're up to the task.
And if I remember hearing you, I heard at some point from you, well, I don't remember where it was, but did you also go for the CFP after you got the CPA?
Oh, yes. After my CPA, after about a few weeks, I just stumbled on it and I said, okay, let me go for it. I never thought it was going to be tough. I thought it was just going to be like a normal wherever. But when I went in, I discovered that it's also very tough. But thankfully, I already know the process from SuperFast, and I applied the process of SuperFast. At a point, I was craving for your mini quiz. I was almost sending an email to SuperFast that you guys should come up with something on CFP. But luckily, I think towards my third attempt of the exam, the board came up with something that was similar to SuperFast. That's the mini quiz. I mean, the mini quiz only. So I was able to use it, and that really helped me. I took the exam at the third attempt with that mini quiz, and I passed it. I just want to me, SuperFast process is excellent. So that means SuperFast process can be applied on any of these certification exams. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. So you used the same process for CFP as you used for the CPA exams.
Yes.
And then that one, something that was really helpful was they came out with a similar thing with the mini quizzes, and that really made a difference on that third attempt.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's pretty awesome. I mean, you've got your CPA, you've got your CFP. You're also a chartered accountant, so you're very accomplished. So, I mean, you're doing awesome, Nike. I've loved talking to you. As we wrap up here, the last question I always ask, even if it's something we've already talked about, even if it's something we've already said, but just to wrap up, what would be your top 2 or 3 tips that you would want to give to somebody who's still going through the exams?
Okay. Actually, I've already given it to minimum of about 3 people that are currently writing it. The first thing is, if you are writing the CPA and you have not gotten SuperFast review, please go ahead and get it. Go ahead and get it because it will save you a lot of time. It will save you a lot of stress. I know the likes outside there, the other reviews, they have the material. But it's not enough for you to know where you are going, but you need to know how to get there. So you knowing how to get there and get there fast makes a lot of difference. To me, SuperFast will teach you how you get your CPA done on time and you do it fast. Another thing I want to tell people is that, to me, CPA is not a sprint, like I've said. It is not a sprint. You need to run it with patience. And you look at the end results, which is the certificate. Once you have started it, try and be consistent. Before you know it, you'll be done with it. And for those that are still writing it, once you join the CPA and into SuperFast, it's important for you to always look at the student forum, the candidate forum. Mm-hmm. It's important. There are a lot of things. At times, when I failed any of the exam and I get there and I see some people also that failed, I'm encouraged. And the one interesting thing is that some other people will come there after they are done. They will still continue to come back and continue to encourage you. Mm-hmm. To me, that strengthens a lot. That helps a lot. And that was very huge to me because there was nobody physically around me that was writing that exam at that point. But that place was like a community to me, and it was a huge difference. So if you have not gotten your SuperFast and you are writing the CPA exam, please go ahead and get it. It will save you a lot of stress. Thank you.
Save you a lot of stress, a lot of time. Have that community around you.
Yes.
I love that. You've given a lot of fantastic tips, a lot of fantastic advice today, Nika. I'm so glad that we were able to get on the call today. So I have you a great rest of your day, and congrats on being done.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It was nice having you.
All right, that was the interview with Nika. Again, I thought it was a great one. I really loved hearing her story of starting out here in the United States, deciding she wanted to become a CPA. Even though she was already a chartered accountant in Nigeria, she wanted the same opportunities here in the United States. And I loved hearing her story. I loved hearing the way she talks. If you did like this video, make sure to like it and leave a comment in the YouTube video or leave a rating in your favorite podcast app. This was a great interview, so make sure you're looking for the next one as well. And I will see you in the next episode.